Councillor Grenier, let's go. Hustle it up. Okay, councillors, I'll call the meeting to order. Please return your electronic devices to silent or turn them off. Everybody please sign in. Is there anyone that has a conflict of interest they wish to declare on any of the items today? Seeing none. There are no presentations today. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a mix-up with regard to the Transportation Master Plan. We intended for that presentation to be remade again today in a more thorough nature. Councillor Bentley had a motion to defer one part of that. He was actually clear to me and Councillor Rigby on that, and I thought we were good with it, but staff read it as in a different way and thinking that the entire thing was deferred for a cycle. So it ended up getting bumped off the agenda. So that's not with us today. However, the good news is they'll now have had 6 weeks to prepare that presentation. So it should be a really, really good presentation in 3 weeks. Councillor Bentley, do you want to say something to that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, thank you. And it is unfortunate that that was a misinterpretation. And I sent an email the next morning to clarify what the intent was. But the good news is the public information session is this Thursday night anyway, and that is the area that is in dispute or in consideration. And if we had have taken it out at that council meeting, then it would have been a waste of time to have the public information session. And I think it's critical because the GO station's right there. So it's going to be a key piece of Mr. Tripp's master plan. And I thought that if we could take that one piece out and then go ahead with the rest of it, at least he would just have that one piece in his master plan to deal with. But that's not the case. So now I can actually ask to defer it when it comes forward the next time, and he'll have more time to think about his master plan. But
so, Chair Casson, when he's late on Thursday night, we'll know where he is. He's at a meeting.
Yeah, that was, I mentioned that to Councillor Quirk last night at our council meeting, that might give us a reason not to show here on Thursday evening, or we might need a note because we might show up late, but it is from 5:30 to 8:30 on Thursday evening. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving into items for consideration. Can I get a mover and seconder for PWC C32-2017, the recommendations from the Waste Management Planning Steering Committee? Moved by Councillor Burrell, seconded by Councillor Grenier. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Can I get a mover and seconder for PW 26-2017, which is a request for a traffic control signal Region Road 81, Elm Street at Gibson in town of Grimsby? Moved by Councillor Quirk, second by Councillor Bentley. Any discussion? Councillor Quirk.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through you, I just want to thank staff for taking a look at this. This was a request that came through the town's Public Works Department. When this report comes back, is this forwarded back to the town so they can take note of it?
Through you, Chair, yes, they will definitely be in receipt of this report, and there'll be ongoing dialogue as we work through a solution there.
Because it does look like from the report that there are a couple of solutions that could be brought forward, and the town can make some decisions based on that. Is that how I'm reading that correctly?
That is correct. It is a collaborative solution. There needs to be some sidewalk and other improvements, but we feel there's this modified version PXO crossing that could be suitable in this location.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Seeing nothing further, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. PW 27-2017 with regard to a speed limit adjustment Regional Road 20 Lundy's Lane in the city of Thorold. I'm going to look to my left for a mover. Moved by Councillor Luciani, seconded by Councillor Rigby. This has been an ongoing issue on that road, so staff had a look at it and have brought forward this speed adjustment. Is there any further questions or comments on this? Councillor Luciani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank staff for bringing this forward and finally getting this approved. It's going to make things a lot safer in that area. We've had reports of cars going off the road, and I know the new guide rail will prevent that from happening. And just slowing traffic down heading towards the bridge is going to be a positive thing also. So I'd like to thank staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Can I get a mover and seconder for PW 28, 2017, which is the approval of the 2017 Burgoyne Bridge audited schedules of eligible expenditures? Moved by Councillor Rigby, second by Councillor Gale. Councillor Augustine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I sent a note in to staff on this. A couple of meetings ago, I had asked for a timeline on the Burgoyne Bridge, and because there's sort of, we keep getting these reports and we want to see how this all fits in. And that was approved by council. I was under the understanding that it should be at this meeting. Instead, we have this report. Can we just hear from staff about when that timeline is coming forward?
Through you, Chair, in working with the chair of the Burgoyne Task Force Committee, we actually had anticipated bringing it to that meeting. There was a meeting called, I believe about 3 weeks ago. It did not achieve quorum. There's one yet to be scheduled soon. We were waiting to be in receipt of some documentation from the general contractor and then call that meeting for discussion. But it was the intent, and the staff are working on it right now, is to bring that forward as part of the task force meeting. I apologize if there was a confusion in terms of where it was going. That was, I guess, agreed by myself and the chair of the task force.
Okay, thanks. I thought it was made here, so it should come here, but I understand what the commissioner is saying. Perhaps, Mr. Chair, if that meeting isn't in the next 3 weeks, that we can have it at this meeting in 3 weeks' time. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I intended to ask Mr. Tripp what is the timeline as to the finish of the bridge construction work, because many people, local people, are being still affected slightly because of closures, and I believe that's what we would ask Commissioner Tripp to comment on.
Thank you, through you, Chair. As was most recently reported in the media, we are tracking to the end of June for completion. I was just on site actually late last week. We're marking out and finishing final milling and paving. There's the landscaping work to be done. So we're down to the final cleanup works, and we are tracking toward the end of June.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair. In both appendixes, A and B, I guess it is, they have ineligible costs of $278,000. Can you tell me what those are? And I take it, and my next question is, once you tell me what they are, or staff does that mean that they're ineligible for federal third and provincial third? Please.
Commissioner.
Through you, Chair, that is correct. They are ineligible for, as was established initially with the funding, the 18 million and 18 million from the two levels of government. I'll have to get back to the councillor to be definitive, but I believe it had to do with design work that had commenced prior to approval for the funding, and it was considered ineligible.
Okay, if you can let me know that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grenier.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just, I understand completely that these two reports are part of our obligation to the grant funding. I'm just trying to go from memory, or perhaps the next time that this comes, we could have a complete thing tested against the 49 million approved amount and the amount that's been given to us for the grant money completed, rather than doing that. I'd like to see it together in one report. And when we close this out, the previous answer was that the construction project is about a month away from completion. So when we see the closeout report, I just want to see it laid out rather than in a separated form like this.
Commissioner.
Through Chair, to the councillor's question, That's the information I was hoping to show in the timeline that's been requested by Councillor Augustine, the milestones of decisions, but also the external funding and when those approvals took place, compared against what the total budget and the final cost of the project are. So it is going to be a part of that timeline report as well. Probably, I mean, when this will come back again as we complete the project.
It wasn't meant to, as an indictment on the work that staff is doing. I just wanted to see it when it comes in its final form in that way so that we could clearly understand it and for public consumption. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Now, committee, before I go any further, I just want to mention that Commissioner Tripp sent out an email on Friday to announce the hiring of a new Director of Water and Wastewater Services, as well as a new Director of Transportation Services. The new Director of Water and Wastewater Services is Joe Tonelato. Joe's been with the region, but he's unable to be here today, but welcome aboard to Joe. And the new Director of Transportation Services is Carolyn Ryle. Carolyn's here today. So I'd just like to welcome Carolyn to that position. Okay, now moving forward to PW 29 2017, the intermunicipal transit phase 2 update at the triple majority and next steps. Can I get a mover and seconder for this? Moved by Chair Caslin, seconded by Councillor Luciani. Beat you to it, Councillor Rigby. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Quirk.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Matt, I had sent him a note just on respect to Appendix 1 that has the consent of all the various bylaws that came through. And I just wanted to flag, and I mentioned it to Matt, that Wainfleet did also have a condition that service not be imposed on Wainfleet without consultation with them as part of their motion. And I just want to make sure that that's captured so that there's no noses out of joint in Wainfleet. And other than that, thanks to Matt for putting the report together.
Thank you, Councillor Court. Councillor Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And from Niagara on the Lake standpoint, there was a paragraph on the condition that an alternative to the assessment-based funding formula be provided. Is anything going to take place on that, or are we just reporting that as a yes?
Commissioner, you want to speak to that?
We don't like assessment-based.
Through your chair, the intent is there's a commitment to review that. Where it actually ends up, I can't really say at this point, but it'll be a part of consideration for the steering committee going forward.
And that's great. I guess my concern is that staff, when they're ready, will get back to myself and also local council on whatever the response will be for that item.
Absolutely, yes. And in fact, this report speaks to the calling of appointments for the working group, and Niagara Lake will certainly be represented there as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Luciani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to ask one question with regards to selection to the Intermunicipal Transit Steering Committee. How is that going to be based on? Do you volunteer or do you have to be nominated?
Well, there's no members for Thorold that are allowed on that committee. I believe that, as the motion says, Regional Council next week will be something on the agenda where we'll ask to select 4 members from Regional Council to sit on that.
Okay, thank you very much.
So you could volunteer and let people know if you want to sit on that beforehand.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Councillor Grenier. Welland's got 2 people. You're out too. Okay. Anything further? Seeing nothing. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And congratulations to staff and City of Niagara Falls, Welland, and St. Catharines who've worked on that. Consent items for information. If there are any questions on any of the consent items, yeah, there will be. So Let's move them one at a time. We'll move the report on Martindale Road slope failure first. Moved by Councillor Tim, second by Councillor Grenier. Any questions? Councillor Caslin.
Yeah, I just want to recognize the staff for their work in getting that fixed. It was a very dangerous situation that was made safe quickly, and the repair initial time estimates were going to be in the order of months after talking to our commissioner. But in fact, hiring a contractor right away and getting emergency work underway made that possible to be complete within about a month, maybe even less. So exceptional work by the contractor. I believe it was Rankin Construction, and our staff for supporting that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Caslin. Anything further?
Chair.
Okay, Commissioner.
Through Chair, with your indulgence, thank you for the comments, and I just wanted to include Ellis Engineering as well as part of that collaborative solution.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Mover and seconder for communication 2017 water quality management system internal external audit result. Moved by Councillor Burrows, second by Councillor Grenier. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Regional road crossings over the Welland Canal, PWC C28 2017. I'll look to Councillor Timms to move that. Second by Councillor Rigby. Any questions or comments? Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank staff for putting together the memo and clarify the high level of cooperation between the region and the Seaway in developing quite a number of protocols here. And I do appreciate the 93.3 broadcasts. You can kind of figure out where which bridge is upwind as you approach, so it's very helpful. And the question I have is about what the obligation of the Seaway is in this matter. And I know there's a contract between the Minister of Transportation and the Seaway. Do we know what that contract is and what their obligations are as we work with them for the cooperation? Do we know what they have to do for us, or do we, and can we get a copy of that agreement?
As Sean's not here, and this was Sean's.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start and perhaps look to Councillor Caslin as well, just to mention his recent meeting with the Minister of Transport. So we don't have access to an actual agreement. We had a recent meeting with senior staff from the management company corporation, which was a very cooperative and respectful meeting. They did make it clear that through their legislation, marine trumps everything. Their first in terms of hierarchy, their first priority is marine, but they said so in a respectful way that they try to accommodate our priorities as well. In terms of the actual agreement, we don't have access to that, but I would like to go to Councillor Caslin, who had recent discussion, has an update in terms of where they are with that agreement and relationship.
Chair Caslin.
Thank you. So yes, we did have an opportunity to meet in Ottawa with the policy advisor and policy director from the Minister of Transportation, Mark Garneau's office. And we stressed the point that although transportation of goods is very important, it's very important for our economy and it's a significant economic driver, it's not just about boats. The Welland Canal is not just about boats. There's a lot more to the Welland Canal than just boats and transportation of goods. There's a lot of underdeveloped economic opportunity that's there. When we think about the lands around the canal and the use of those lands in a number of different ways of development and perhaps tourism, when we think about the waterway itself and what it could be used for, and what comes to mind right away is the GE plant and them having a serviceable entry or dock at their plant. The use of the water itself, a lot of the water is simply spilled. That water can be used to generate energy. So there's a lot of other economic opportunities with respect to the canal that need exploring and I think are worthwhile talking about. Now, when we've worked with the Seaway Corporation in the past on bridges and construction and so on, they've made it clear to us, and the Transportation Ministry has as well, that their interest is simply about transportation of goods and the efficiency of getting boats through the canal. Understandably, our interest is a little different. we have to consider that the entire canal is contained within the Niagara region. So really, it's on our property, it's in our jurisdiction. With respect to our property, we need to be able to extend some input into what happens around the canal and perhaps even part of the canal to take advantage of the opportunity and the efficiencies when it's not being used for shipping. And there's a lot of time that it's not being used for shipping, and there's a lot of property. So we've requested a seat at the table to discuss the contract as it moves forward in 2018. What we were told was they expect that the existing contract will be extended for a year or two so that we can get our head around what the changes might be. We're comfortable with that, but quite frankly, we were very insistent that we be part of those discussions to make sure that we had a say in the economic opportunities for Niagara.
Good for you. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Gale.
Before we leave, just
Sorry, Councillor Timms still has the floor, yeah.
on this item still. And so first of all, I want to thank the chair's office and the staff that supported that discussion. And I think we've made significant progress in that relationship between the Minister of the Seaway and the region. The reference in the memo here is that under the Marine Act, marine comes first. And the question did come up last night when we talked about the GO Rail stations. There was a planning session, a public meeting at Ridley and St. Catharines, but the obvious question was, what is the deal between the Seaway and the rail if marine comes first under the Marine Act? And they noted, gentleman made a point that Via Rail was stopped at Lock 4 Bridge for some reason yesterday. So where do we stand on that scenario if marine comes first according to the federal government?
Commissioner?
Through your chair, I'm going to defer to Mr. Robinson. We do have a commitment in the beginning of the schedule of the day, but I'm going to have Mr. Robinson speak specifically to that.
Through you, Chair. In some of the work that was done months ago as we were putting the business case together, we as a group had a number of discussions that occurred with the Seaway. We have in writing and have shared with the Ministry of Transportation a letter from the board of St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation indicating that they want to be active partners in the movement of commuter rail through the corridor and have committed to having a hard look. They have indicated that they are willing to, given a set schedule with Metrolinx moving forward, to commit to allowing trains to pass into Niagara Falls at scheduled times. It may not be at the same frequency as they see in other places in the corridor, but that was one of the pieces that allowed us to move the business case forward, was having those discussions with the Seaway and putting that in writing from their board of directors.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all very encouraging and good news for Niagara. Thank you.
And before I go to Councillor Gale, can I recognize Mr. Robinson's now our Director of GO Transportation Implementation. I don't know if that's formally been recognized at Public Works. And clearly St. Lawrence Seaway is also part of Mr. Robinson's neighborhood. So we'll know that look after that responsibility. Thank you, Councillor Grenier, for recognizing that. Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to give an example because I feel, I'm happy that Chair Caslin and Councillor Timms are involved in this because they understand business. But the St. Lawrence Seaway Commission has to have more thought for the Niagara. For the same reason, the Peace Bridge, Town of Fort Erie wants some representatives, I read, on the Peace Bridge because they care about the area here. And I agree with that. The St. Lawrence Seaway, I'll give you one example. I bought a piece of property, or put an offer on a piece of property at Lakeshore and Reed Road 15 years ago. When I was told that, hey, they could close down that bridge for 4 months, got right out of the deal, completely, developing that whole corner. It was zoned and things like this. Then I started talking to business around, and since then I've heard from businesses in Port Colborne and places like this at how detrimental it is for them to ruthlessly just close a bridge for 4 months when it could be 2 months. And I understand there's maintenance in that, but it'd be nice to hear that there's people from the area on their commission, at least 2, and I don't know the makeup of their commission, but we need people to care about Niagara because it's devastating. No one's going to develop in the Port Weller east side of St. Catharines if they can't use that bridge when it's shut down for 4 months, and it hasn't been this year, but Carlton Street was, and others. And it just affects us so much when you don't have content from the region on it. So business doesn't care for the St. Lawrence Seaway Commission that much, but they aren't going to be that vocal because they're such a big guy. So it's nice to see that the chair and Councillor Timms are involved, and I'd like to have them allow more input from business around on their future endeavors, because the east side of the canal is a gold mine from Port Weller all the way pretty well, I guess, that should be developed for business. It's just sitting there. So thank you.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, is there any other business? Sign in, because there's a bunch of hands that went up. Okay, Councillor Grenier.
That took a while. Anyway, I have 3 items, if I can, please, Mr. Chair, with respect to public works issues in Welland. The first 2, the mayor and Councillor Marshall and I have spoken about together, and would like to bring it to staff's attention. We've had a request from the Santé Health facility on Main Street in Welland to help them put the IPS, or signalized crossing. Many of the visitors to that healthcare facility are having trouble getting across Main Street. So the idea of helping with that with the city of Welland to facilitate that and access, and to understand the cultural sensitivity of having health services delivered in French and have easy access to that building. The second is Riverside Drive, a bit of a soapbox for me. When I was the ward councillor there, as well as now, both Councillor Marshall and I have had a number of residents complain to us. It is on the list, Riverside Drive in Welland. The segment that is a regional road, it's a little bit orphaned. It should be a city road geographically, and it is on the one of the list of segments to be downloaded to the lower tier, and we would like to see or get some idea of how to work with the city to expedite that for this coming budget year. And then lastly, I raised this 2 meetings ago with respect to transit. The Seaway Mall and both Niagara College faculty have complained about the timing of the last bus leaving for interregional transit, that students are leaving before classes are completed to get onto the bus, and those that work the closing shift at the mall do not have transit access because the bus leaves before the mall closes. So if we could put that on the table for the IMT discussions, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
It was quick. Councillor Gale.
Thank you, Chair. 2 things, and I'll be real quick. The first one is I'd like to, and subject to you, support the town of Fort Erie about this Peace Bridge, about having someone on from the area on that commission there. I know it's a federal agency, but I'd like to see if there's an interest in us sending a letter to support them on that with the feds, that we should have local content on these boards. That's number 1.
Okay, so maybe at council we can see if we can bring forward a letter that will get unanimously approved by council.
Okay.
To support that request.
Okay. I'd like to keep that issue in the front of the government because they'll forget about it. Everybody else has by now, I would think. Number 2, concession 6, Mewburn Road. I talked to council. I'm sorry? Mewburn Bridge. I know the plan is concession 6 go to the region, has to be expanded, and I don't mind Councillor Burrows chiming in on this. I was hoping Mayor Diodati would be here too. But a couple months ago, Mayor Diodati said they had the deal with the railway for the bridge, and I see nothing happening. And I've heard this for years. And Councillor Burrows, I talked to earlier, is frustrated on it too. I'd like to, not just to get a report, I'd like to see a shovel in the ground or something on this, because with that 4-way stop, and you know better than anybody, the 4-way stop in St. David's at 5 o'clock is lined up with traffic coming up. Mewburn was an alternative route to come. And the concerts that you had, I can't remember the name of the group down in Niagara Lake, it was lined up for miles then too. You can't get out of Niagara Lake easily Mewburn Road was an ulterior access to it. So I'd like to find out how this stands, because all I've heard is talk for 2 years.
The Commissioner can address that.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair, and I just actually received, interesting enough, we have the CEO of Niagara Falls here with us today, an update last week where an engineering firm, Ellis Engineering, coincidentally, has been retained for the design of the replacement structure. So the city is moving forward with partnership from Niagara Lake and the region.
Okay, so thank you for that, and through you, Chair. As far as concession 6 then, maybe Councilor Burrows has an answer for this, but how does that stand? Because I understood the town of Niagara Lake had to fix up that road before we took possession. Is that correct?
Commissioner?
Through your Chair, perhaps correct a little bit of misunderstanding, or at least different people's ideas of what was to take place with concession 6. When the region last looked at road rationalization in 2007, it was not recommended for download. However, there was a qualifier that should we go forward with a partial connection to the 405, partial interchange with 405, which is a recommendation in the Transportation Master Plan, that rationalization of roads would likely change, and it would be more than likely recommended that become a regional infrastructure. So it's not a foregone conclusion, although some believe it to be. It makes intuitive sense if the bridge is replaced and if there is some connectivity with 405, but it hasn't been a decision of this council yet.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I'm just in a hurry to get the bridge fixed, because then we've solved it right now. But then if the region's taken over, that's, so be it on that, if that's a move that we consider. But so is there any time frame through you to Commissioner Tripp as towards that bridge?
Commissioner?
Through you, Chair, I did want to meet with the city and confirm exactly what the steps are going forward. I will commit to July meeting to have an update in the form of a memo for committee, and it's going to form part of our budget discussions into 2018 as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall.
Very briefly, we had one or two tonight, and we've had them historically. The speed limit adjustments, and largely they're local municipalities, although acknowledged, of course, that it's a regional road. Should it be a function of us maybe saying yay or nay on those, or should it just be a staff decision? I don't know how it got to the point where committee had to make a recommendation, and if staff did make a recommendation, maybe we can receive it for information, or alternatively get it on our Friday communications, and if we have any concerns, we can ask that it be put on the agenda. Just a thought, obviously not a big thing, and wasn't enough issues today that I thought it might be good to bring up.
Okay, thank you for that. There have been some in the past, though, that have been contested at committee, so 6 of one, half dozen the other, I guess. Okay, thank you. Councillor Augustine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I was speaking with the property owner at the corner of Rice Road and Highway 20 on the weekend, and he wants me to come and visit him again today. It's the Dominic's restaurant there. There was a promise a couple of years ago that something would be done in terms of the turning into his facility as you're going eastbound. The middle, the dividing piece is quite long, and he's worried about an accident, etc. Our former director was looking into it. Obviously, it hasn't been communicated to him what's going to be done, etc. And I know that that intersection is going to have some work done. So can we just ask that staff communicate with him, and maybe we can also hear about the timeline for the works at the corner of Rice and 20. I know that they were moving the hydro lines on Rice last week, which is a great sign. That means that something's afoot. So if we can just have staff look into that, and also get back to us on the timing for Rice Road works.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Redicott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd spoken earlier with Commissioner Tripp about the new high school in Fort Erie, which is on Highway 3. The part of Highway 3, I believe it is east of Rose Hill Road, is a regional road. West of Rose Hill, I believe it's still provincial. But it's in the high school itself is in a 60-kilometer speed limit area. But immediately to the west of Rose Hill, it's 80 kilometers. And I don't know that it's going to be adequate warning for drivers to fully slow down their vehicles, because most people have a penchant to start to slow down once they hit the speed limit reduction sign. I received a call early this morning about this particular issue. So I believe that the speed limit to the east of the school is fine, but I'm wondering whether there may be some opportunity to look at the speed limit to the west of Rose Hill Road. The second issue that the caller raised related to the orientation of the road, which is east-west, so that the sun rises and sets along that corridor. And depending on which direction you're coming from in the morning, you'll have the sun in your eyes. In the evening, you'll have the sun in your eyes in the other direction. For residents or people that are familiar with the area, they would understand that, they would know what's in the area, but he expressed some concern about individuals who are not familiar with the territory and wondered whether it would be possible to have some type of signage erected far enough away from the school to warn individuals that there is a school and a school crossing. It will be a very busy intersection. There's a new intersection that's been created between the entrance to the municipal offices, the municipal complex, and the new high school. There will be buses, there will be kids crossing, so it will be quite busy. So I'm wondering if that's something that could be looked into.
Commissioner, do we have school zone ahead signs?
Through your chair, all of that is worth considering in review. There would, at the very least, there would be an advanced signage for the new traffic signal that's there, but we'll look at how we might complement that with other signage as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and just a quick comment on the Mewburn Bridge. As we all realize, we've got two big roundabouts, one on Mountain Road and one on Concession 6 and Highway 55. Concession 6 is the connector. It makes a whole bunch of sense to move ahead with that, and I agree with the commissioner. We do need another access to get out of Niagara Lake onto 405. So I hope we move forward very quickly, and I'm sure with Councillor Gale pushing, he'll get it done. But I also wanted to thank the commissioner for a couple of reports that he's going to give me so I can take to local council. One is where are we with the sewage treatment plant that was supposed to be done, and I don't think it is. And the other one is Highway 55. We used to have a rule many, many, many years ago that construction on that main access road should be done by May 24th. The lineup this morning coming through that construction was probably 75 to 80 cars. It's really been a struggle. I realize there is, they've run into challenges. I understand that, but some communication to the residents, and certainly the residents that live in that section, saying it is coming to an end. We're not going to see that damn traffic light put on every day. So I know I'm getting a report from the commissioner, and that's great because I can take it to local council, but we really need to press to get that thing done. We're a tourist town, as you know, and there's only one road into Niagara-on-the-Lake, that's Highway 55, unless you're coming down Formal Creek. So whatever we can do to speed it up and communicate to the residents would be appreciated.
Okay, I got caught on that yesterday myself, so it is bad. Seeing nothing.
We're all learning, even the locals are learning new inventive ways to not use Highway 55.
Go around, exactly, yeah. Okay, seeing nothing further, there are no closed session items. So the next meeting will be held Tuesday, July 11th, and the principal item of business will be the master transportation plan. Until then, we are adjourned.